hope you're well. Today we're going to learn about one of the most fundamental processes of life, respiration. First, I'm going to find out what you already know about respiration. There are 2 starter questions and you'll have 30 seconds to do them. Question 1, what is respiration? And question 2, which things respire? Time starts now.
Only time will tell. It gets you in the end, whether it's your enemies or friends. Years will teach, they'll put you on your knees, begging out for mercy with a please.
Just hold on for a second. One of the most common misconceptions about respiration is that it's the same thing as breathing. Respiration is not breathing. I repeat, respiration is not breathing. Respiration is the release of energy from glucose. And the answer to the second question is all living organisms respire. Even microorganisms. They're the tiny little things like bacteria and fungi which we can't see with our eyes. The whole point of respiration then is to release energy. But why is energy so important? Time starts now.
Only time will tell. It gets you in the end, whether it's your enemies or friends. Time will teach. They'll put you on your knees, begging out for mercy with a please.
One of the most obvious reasons is for movement. Without energy, you simply cannot move. Energy is also needed for cell division and growth. We need energy for maintaining body temperature, and less obvious, for nerve impulses. These electrical messages that tell our body how to respond require energy to happen. Actually, this is not an exhaustive list. We need energy for more things than this, but I think you've got enough to be digesting for now. How many did you get by yourself? There are 2 types of respiration you need to learn about. The first type is called aerobic respiration, and this is respiration that uses oxygen. Most of the time, this is how we respire. This equation shows exactly what is needed and exactly what is produced during aerobic respiration. So we need to start with glucose. This is the fuel for the reaction, and then oxygen. The products of this reaction are carbon dioxide and water, but in the process, energy is also released. If you are attempting the higher tier papers, you also need to know the symbol version of this equation. Let's take a look at it. Glucose is written as this formula, C6H12O6. You can see by looking at the letters, it contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Glucose is therefore a carbohydrate. The next part of the symbol equation is 6O2. The number just tells us how many molecules of oxygen are used. Then to the right of the arrow we have our products. 6CO2 for carbon dioxide, 6H2O for water, and we can write energy as ATP. Energy is not classed as a product because it doesn't contain any atoms. Let's have a look at the equation again just to get it cemented into your memory. Glucose comes from the digestive system, from the food and drink that we consume. Oxygen is taken from the breathing system, from the air. Carbon dioxide and water are both waste products which we exhale. Most of the steps of respiration take place inside organelles called mitochondria. Mitochondria might be a new word for you. Have a look at how it's spelt and practice saying it. Mitochondria. You might not have thought about us exhaling water. We don't obviously exhale liquid water. That would be a little bit, well, inconvenient. It comes out in the form of water vapour. If you don't believe me, you can do a little test yourself right now. Take your palm and breathe onto it a few times with your mouth open, like so. Then put your finger on your palm and you should feel it feels slightly moist. This is water that you have exhaled. Now chance to test out your short-term memory. Try to rearrange the words to make the correct word equation for aerobic respiration. 30 seconds. And here are the answers. Glucose plus oxygen makes carbon dioxide plus water and energy. Hello, what's going on here? It's clear to see these penguins are not observing social distancing guidelines. Why are they doing this? Let's have your ideas. There's a clue here for you. The answer is to do with respiration. And also think about the habitat these guys live in. Alright, break it up now, big fellas, that's enough. So, penguins huddle to keep warm, it's as simple as that. It works because respiration is an exothermic reaction, which means when it takes place, heat energy is released to the surroundings, which for these penguins means the heat from each other help to warm them as well. I don't know how they've got scarves and hats in the Antarctic, these are penguins of luxury. Time now for your first learning check. There are 3 different coloured categories for you to choose from. The red is the easiest, followed by green, and the blue are the most challenging questions. 30 seconds to answer as many as you can. So far, we've just talked about one type of respiration, aerobic respiration, but we haven't really said what type of activities use aerobic respiration. Can you think of one? Aerobic respiration takes place when the body is able to supply the cells with the oxygen that they need. So we need to be able to breathe in enough oxygen for the activity. Let's have a look at an example of aerobic activity. For this, I need to do a quick change into my PE kit. I'll meet you on the field. Brisk walking and even jogging are examples of aerobic activity. I'm not out of breath, I can hold a conversation easily, and quite frankly, I could do this all day. Aerobic respiration is used for long duration and low to medium intensity activities, such as walking and jogging. Some activity requires a more intense burst of energy. Let's have a look at what I mean. Again, I'll have to get changed. I should have just kept my kit on.
Now that was much harder work. I don't have to sprint like that. My heart rate's through the roof. I'm really puffing and panting, and it's all because I've had to switch, excuse me, to anaerobic respiration.
So the second type of respiration is anaerobic respiration. This takes place when the body cannot supply the cells with the oxygen needed to break down the glucose. Let's look at the equation. It's actually simpler to learn. Glucose gets broken straight down into a product called lactic acid, and energy is released in this process. Well, that's handy, isn't it, that we don't always need oxygen to be able to carry out our activities. There is, however, a big catch with anaerobic respiration. In fact, there are two big catches. The lactic acid produced during anaerobic respiration is actually poisonous. It builds up in the muscle cells and eventually causes fatigue and sometimes cramp. It's because of this we can only do anaerobic activities for a short amount of time. After using anaerobic respiration for an activity, the person pants and breathes heavily afterwards. Why do you think that is? The answer is to pay off the oxygen debt. By oxygen debt, we mean the amount of oxygen needed to break down the lactic acid produced during anaerobic respiration. We call this repaying the oxygen debt. Let's look at the equation. We have the lactic acid and all we need to do is add oxygen to it in order to break it down into things that we find easier to process and get rid of. In other words, carbon dioxide and water. Important to remember, in order to do this, we need to take in the oxygen after the exercise or activity has finished. Bravo everybody! Time for another learning check. We're doing traffic lights. Red, amber, green. If you have traffic light cards, you can use those. Question 1. What does anaerobic mean? With air, produces lactic acid, or without oxygen? 5 seconds to decide. The correct answer, anaerobic means without oxygen. Question 2. Which is the poisonous waste product of anaerobic respiration? Is it lactic acid, carbon dioxide, or glucose? 5 seconds. The answer is lactic acid. Question 3. During which type of activity are people likely to respire anaerobically? During sleep, during long distance running, or during sprint racing? 5 seconds. The answer is during sprint racing. Last section, everybody. We now need to think about the effect of exercise on heart rate and breathing. You have 30 seconds to answer the questions on the screen. What happens to your heart rate and breathing when you exercise, and why do these changes take place?
Time will tell, we get you in the end, whether it's your enemies or friends. Time will teach, they'll put you on your knees, begging out for mercy with a
We have a simple word here to help you remember this. More. M-O-R-E. Let's look at what those letters represent. When we exercise, muscles need more, what for everybody? That's right, oxygen. So they can... Now comes the R. So the R stands for respire, more rapidly, and release more. What do working muscles need more of? Energy. Just look at that, M-O-R-E. It spells the word more. That's really handy and easy to remember. Just to finish off with, it's time for the fun quiz. Aerobic or anaerobic? Okay, you're going to do cards, everybody. One for aerobic, one for anaerobic. If you'd like to, you don't have to. Number 1, requires oxygen, aerobic or anaerobic? 5 seconds. The answer is aerobic. Next, used for short burst, intense activities. Aerobic or anaerobic? 5 seconds. The answer is anaerobic. Next, creates lactic acid. 5 seconds. Anaerobic. Produces carbon dioxide as a waste product. 5 seconds. Aerobic. And the final one requires glucose. 5 seconds. Yeah, sorry guys. This is a trick one. I tried to trip you up here. It's both aerobic and anaerobic. Both require glucose. Particularly well done if you were not fooled by my last question there. Ooh, a bit of a trap, wasn't it? Sorry.